guys, it's Isopods and more with me. I hope everything's going well with you and you're taking care of yourselves and the ones you love. I'm doing something a little bit different and impromptu. I was out here unplugging, I went for a walk and I found a very nice piece of wood and decided it's just a nice day to go out and do some harvesting. As I was walking out here, there were some nice things that I saw I wanted to pick up. So I have my GoPro on. So I'm going to go for a walk, and as I stop and come to things, you know, picture it, talk about it, and it was inspired because when I specifically get to another piece over there, I will point it out, but there are actually two, and I snagged one on my first walk, and I'm torn between if I wanted to put that piece in a vivarium or put it with my isopods, and so I figured since there was two, I'd come back and grab the other one. So let's hop into it. Eventually I want to come back out here and harvest some of this. It's not coming off. Well, I guess now that I'm actually looking at it, I could start prying right here, but that's mainly the bottom side. But I want to harvest this. This is one of my spots next year. This one is not as well, I guess it's not as bad. It just looks a little bit darker as it's moist. So this is one of my targets come spring. Let's move on. But first, look at how wonderfully that stands out. I'm not going to grab that today. I'm just trying to grab drier stuff, and I may come back and grab it, but that's not my intent right now. I'm trying to take stuff that's going to be a little bit easier for me to take care of when I get back. So let's move on. Look at all of that I want to take. I may come out here on another day and grab some of these bigger pieces and leave them out on my porch. Geez, I hope that comes out well. How much there is here. Oh, and this stuff, look at that. Oh, I want to take that. Let me see how my bucket looks on the way back and we may grab it. I want to show you guys a few other things. So this is something else I wanted to show you guys, but I'm going to switch to my phone for this one. This is the tree where, in fact, some of the pieces you can still see, the chunks that came off of the bottom here, along with the pieces of bark like that. This is where I harvested almost all of my Porcellio spinicornis. In fact, this is the piece of wood that once I harvested the majority of them, I left it more or less right where it was. So that's where I have a good 50% of my Spinicornis are from that and what was over here that I harvested. But what I want to point out is, well, first, if you have any idea of what kind of tree this is, I would appreciate that. If you could help me. I know now's not the best time to identify. I apologize for that. But my point is, see, I kind of want to harvest this stuff now, but again, I'm not looking for this wetter on the ground stuff. My point is, there's both these chunks of decayed wood and this bark that I'm noticing. Several of my species outside of my local ones, so my zebras, the mankai, go crazy for that wood, but a lot of them tend to like this wood because of the I compare it to a brain where, you know, if you have smooth wood, there's less surface area, but when it's broken up like that, like a complex rough brain, you have divots, areas, and it creates more surface area as opposed to just what's flat. So I noticed they tend to like that. I'm gonna move down and show you a little more of what I mean, but I don't want to go under this tree in the event that fate plays a cruel joke on me. But again, you can see those grooves and little valleys, so to speak, that they can have their individual little nooks for. So this coming season, this is going to be one of my targets. And I do want to point out one last thing. As you can see, this stuff, I'm not going to mess with it, but there's my finger, ready to come off. I'm not going to pry with that. I don't know if anything is alive under there, and I don't want to kill anything, but this is my target for next year. And nature has already started much of the process for me. Let's move on. So where you see this bucket is going to be a little home away from home, but I'm going to once again switch to my cell phone. Film those squirrels chasing each other. I don't know how well it will come out with the GoPro. A gray and a brown squirrel. Big old fatties too. Let's switch cameras. This spot is going to be awesome. There's that tree behind me you can see. There's stuff over there I'll go walk and look a little more closely at. But then what I was talking about is this thing. Again, I'm not going to mess with it too much in terms of poking and prodding. This stuff is very airy, falling off. You can see some of it crumbling down there. Again, I'm not going to mess with it now because I don't want to kill whatever's in there, but I'm going to be breaking apart this wood. One thing I'm going to have to be very aware of and constantly making sure to be on top of is the fact that I'm fairly confident it's termites in here. So I don't want to, be introducing those to my home or to my isopods. Now, there's that there, but I'm going to switch views really quick and show you more what I mean. So this is the stump. Again, it's taller than I am, and I'm 6'3". It's so hard to resist just pulling it apart now. But again, that's not what I'm here for. And then we have these. And I want to actually go and show you because this was awesome when I noticed it from this angle. Again, I love the way nature does its thing because look at that. Isn't that neat? I wonder how many isopods had meals in there. So there's this wood that I want to eventually start harvesting. Again, moss and things like that are more of what I want to start to harvest and eventually try to propagate. But let's move. I mean, there's wood like that. Look at this. Look at that. I got lost. That's not even where I'm trying to go. I don't I don't like going too crazy without my stick. Let's take the scenic route a little bit and just actually just let you see again. If I was comfortable with leaves, I would do that. Some of you will know what that is. Oh man, this place. That's what I wanted. Well, this is another example of, again, it's just waiting for me to come and pick this up. Look at this. Falling apart. I mean, let's see if I can show you how. Again, I don't want to mess with it too much, but that piece looks almost dry enough to take. That's rad. I'm gonna go find one of my moss spots. So again, this is gonna be one of my stomping grounds come spring. Let's move on. This is going to be another spot I'm going to be frequenting next year. Let me switch to my other camera phone and tell you why. This place is awesome. This, not so much. Well, it was pretty good, but this piece, again, I don't even want to touch it. If I do, there are likely dozens of Trachelopis Rathkii under here. This is where I found the majority of. I think I mentioned in one video where I overturned it. What happened was I stepped on, coming over it, this part, and the thing shifted, and I almost tripped. And as I mentioned, it was a day a little bit warmer than today, but where they probably would have froze. So I ran back, got a container, scooped up everything that I could find. And that is my Trachelopis Rathkii story. I wasn't planning on harvesting because I didn't have the substrate for another enclosure. It was blah, blah, blah. But my point is, this place is a gold mine for those. And I do want to talk about, in fact, this is almost perfect. My Porcellio spinicornis that I was talking about at the tree prior, the conditions are a lot drier. And even now, granted, and it did rain, but it seemed the wood was drier, the conditions were drier. And what I've noticed is that Porcellio spinicornis, from, again, what I've been seeing in their enclosures and when I harvest them out here, is there's a lot more moisture around here. And the Rathkii tend to congregate extremely close to, just barely off of, or in the leaves of more moist environments like this. I would expect to find this log maybe not wet all around like this, but underneath, incredibly, it would be very wet. Like, I hope you can see how saturated this is, and it's very similar. Whereas the Spinicornis tended to, I can't even find really wood around here that I would say I would find them in, because it's all too moist. They a piece like this, I may find some, but if it was incredibly dry, this is, I don't find Spinicornis on moist pieces like this. Similarly, if this piece was drier, I don't tend to see Unplug Rathkii in those types of woods. But enough about this spot that I'm gushing about, and I can't wait to get back to, because several feet away you'll see this, and this is rad, because this is the story of the beaver stories are for another day, because that's not why we're here. But as you can see, we had beavers here a few years ago, and they knocked over some trees, quite a few trees, which now leaves me with this. In fact, I want to show you. Oh, I'll show you that in a moment too. But see that? That is, again, stuff I want. Ooh, this one's close. I mentioned I wanted to take pieces that were off. Yeah, I may. Not totally dry, but dry enough. I'm going to snag this piece. And it's actually breaking. So, in fact, you can see the condition. Now, just picture this in prime springtime isopod season. This place is just crawling with them. I'll show you something up ahead about another experience I had out here. But just look at, again, no, it'll probably be too wet on this wood. But again, this is the kind of stuff I want to come out and start harvesting and curing over the years, over the year, I should say, the seasons and things like that. Just, again, falling off for various reasons. Up there you can kind of see that there's the other tree. They're making contact. It's rad. But I do want to point out one more thing before we move on, and I kind of always point it out. This is that hole where Craig of the Creek, our snapping turtle, hangs out. And I noticed, I guess, one more last thing, that very similar to that, I hope it can, I don't want to go over there, but there, the tree that uprooted there made a similar little undervalley, so to speak, that they, I think, hang out in. I didn't know that was there, but now that I'm aware of that, I'll be doing that, checking that out a little bit more. I'm going to go put this in the bucket. I'm going to grab my stick, and we're going to move on to the next spot. All right. I don't know if these are lichens or mushrooms or moss covered lichens, but I've been harvesting. This is where I got a lot of the pieces of my moss for indoors, and I want to come out and collect more. Maybe not from here, because I will show you some other spots that are just awesome, but I'm fascinated by these. I want to collect them, but I want to make sure I know what they are before I attempt to. Let's move on. Not far, actually. This is one of the things I wanted to grab. I don't know how that looks in the camera. I want to grab it. Alright, I want to get a closer look at this. This is another bit I want to come and just take this off. And that goes on for a while. Again, these are the little things I want to come and grab. Let's move on. There's one more thing pretty close. I feel kind of silly because I walked right past this, but this is what started this whole little trip. So I'm going to turn this off, switch cameras, and tell you about that. So I noticed this piece is more or less hanging off of the substrate, off of the ground. It's barely touching the tree, and so my point is, as opposed to those pieces, this piece is going to be a lot drier. And hopefully has been sitting out here freezing, and the conditions have been driving away any pests. I just loved this color, and it just stood out to me. Like I said, the other piece at home was very similar, if not, it was the same piece basically, just broken off, that I grabbed. I think it was a little bit smaller than this one. But I just couldn't wait to come back out here and grab that. And now I want to go show you some of the moss that I'm very eager to grab. Let's go do that. A little bit wetter than I want. Alright. I don't know how well all this moss stands out. I don't know how well those snowflakes falling stand out. But I'm going to switch my phone here and let you guys see what I'm talking about. And I'm just seeing more as I look around. I got to keep my eyes on the prize. Let's do this. I want to point out something. It's tough because I always like to walk with my glasses on, because a couple times I've mentioned I've had sticks sling back and hit my glasses so much so that I'm fairly confident that had I not had them on, my eye would have had some kind of at least temporary or short-term damage. But it's just, I wanted to point this out. It's a little, it changes the perspective quite a bit, whereas those greens don't stand out as much. But let me show you some of the stuff that I'm talking about. And this isn't one of the bigger areas per se, it's just one that happens to be right here. I mean, this is just awesome. I probably won't mess with this as this tree is still alive, but this is just some of the stuff I get to come and work with. Some of this will be a little more difficult depending on the season, because this part is actually, I'm going to share that in 1 second while I'm actually literally right here. But this is a spot where when it rains in excess, this part is actually usually underwater. And you can see right about there where the bottom of those those two trees are, is kind of how high the water can get. It can get pretty high here. Well, I should say right about halfway between where it touches the ground and where the beaver bites are is how high it can get. But what I think is really neat is, and I marvel at this, yeah, I'm gonna do that. So the snapping turtle will be here, and it's just awesome because you don't notice it until you notice it. But that's his pathway. He'll come here, go this way. Let me get a better look. So he'll come out of there, go here, go along this. This is awesome. Ready? He'll go under here, come out here, travel along here, go back under here and rest here, and you can see, oh, I hope the perspective is as good as it is for me. These divots, these are the spots he'll sit under these branches and move under, again, his paths there. It's really rad. And you can almost see them all the way to where, as I mentioned, now that's where that second spot is, and that's where that original spot is where I saw the tree tipped and they hide at the base of it. And that's the second one, but you can almost see the path they take in this when it's that way. It's just fascinating to me. And every time, in fact, geez, so that's the one I was showing you where he goes under there. But again, I hope it's clear enough. Again, you can see more. Right, I'm going to try to point right about here. This hole here will go under that log and onto the next. It's amazing the way nature works like that. Oh yeah, and there's a bunch of moss. So I think we're about done. So that about wraps it up. I'm going to go maybe grab some stuff on the way in, but I think that's about it. I was not coming out here to do a bunch of harvesting, more just to shoot a little video, grab a couple things. I may grab some moss or lichens on the way back. I'll have the GoPro going in case I see anything crazy, but in the event I don't, and this is pretty much it, I want you to take care of yourselves, take care of the ones you love, and go easy. I want to point out really quick, I'm walking through this forest, and what I am about to show you is what catches my attention. All right, you ready? Is that a mushroom? I don't want to even disturb it. That's just awesome. Sometimes you just have to slow down and look a little closer. That's rad. And now that I'm actually looking, nice little scene here. If I ever get decent enough, I'd like to take that for a vivarium. Today is not that day. Sorry, mushroom, you're gonna have to stay out here. My camera, my GoPro, that I hate turned off, but is now on. It'll turn off in a moment, but I wanted gotta get a picture of this little area. Look at this. I don't even know if you can see those snowflakes, but again, that is going to be Oniscus ocellus gold right here. In fact, now that I say that, I have to go show you one more thing. This is what I want to show you guys. Look at the moss. These are the trees the beavers knocked down. And like right here, all of these trees, oh my goodness. But let's move in for a little bit closer and a specific thing I want to show. Look at that. Now, this fell. I'm going to go to the other side. Goodness, but look at that. I want to be very mindful even stepping over it, because as you can see, some of this stuff is just ready to go. But oh, I don't want to break this. All right. Ooh. So on one of my walks, this broke off, and there were Oniscus ocellus everywhere. I ended up putting these pieces overlapping so that come summer, you can see the dead wood that was under there. That is mostly like this, that just cakes off. This whole thing is going to be going soon enough. And they were pouring out of here. The day was a very cold day, and sadly, like, a lot of them had already frozen. It was one of those sudden cold days, and I know, generally speaking, they get their warmth from the ground on those cold days, so they were caught in, basically in between there, and a bunch of them froze. But ooh, there's some nice mushrooms too. Again, sometimes you got to stop and look a little closer, but this is just going to be hard. This specific pieces, or these pieces, are going to be harvestable, both in terms of when I come here and grab isopods. I'm going to take all these home, the pieces to end up using. But man, and again, for a person like me, this just goes on forever. This is going to be my little play area come spring. Look at all that green moss. Look at all that wood. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. Now I'm really going to walk in. Well, with you, waiting for my camera to switch, and you're taking care of yourselves and the ones you love. Go easy.